Good afternoon, my name is Steve and I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and a new owner of a Geo Metro and new member to the Geo Forum. Just a little picture of my 1994 four-door Geo Metro, 1 liter automatic transmission. Body, as you can see, is in pretty good shape, actually in excellent shape. It had been in a previous accident somewhere in its past, but very minor on the right hand side here. But all in all, the car is in real good. Body is in excellent shape. Interior as well as in excellent condition. Very little rust, a few spots of rust on it. Previous owner had it for about a year or two, I guess 18 months. He had just had the overhead cam belt replaced. He had the transmission. This is automatic. Unfortunately, I guess you can say it has automatic. But he had its service, actually was in very good shape. I guess the unfortunate thing being is that the economy isn't as good as a manual 5. And we're at 6,000 feet altitude, and that makes a difference too. Anyways, he had the cam belt replaced, had the rear brake shoes and drums turn, and he also had the brake system flush, the new brake fluid installed. So he did a little of that kind of maintenance. Still has the original 12-inch rims. We'll worry about that later. The tires still got a lot of good rubber on there. I did replace the rotor and cap, distributor cap, spark plug wires and plugs. That's a relatively cheap fix. They looked a little old, and I figure, well, you know, I get a basis when I start. I got a starting point with that. He had the oil just changed very recently, maybe within a couple hundred miles, and I purchased it using the recommended 5W30 oil. When I did the tune-up, when I changed the plugs, I checked the timing, and I'll go that in another detail. There's too much to talk about there. You know, the few little things you need to know about it. The specs on the hood, as I said, this car had been in a minor, very minor accident, but it had damaged the hood, and they'd replaced the hood. And of course, the sticker on the hood doesn't say what year it is, but it is not right. I knew from looking at it, so I went by a used Chilton's manual I'd purchased and adjusted it accordingly, and had no problem whatsoever doing all that, and that came out fine. I did replace the alternator belt. This does have AC. I've used the AC on the highway. We here in Albuquerque have had a few warm days already this spring here. It's March 2010. The belts didn't look too bad, although they were kind of worn a little bit. However, I was disappointed. The rear alternator belt was squealing, and that was a little disappointment. He told me he'd had some trouble with that, but it just needed some replacement. So I took his word for it because I knew the individual a little bit. And I went ahead and replaced the belt. And well, the first thing I noticed was the belt was too long. I looked at the specs from AutoZone, and I could tell it was adjusted all the way out. The alternator was pushed all the way back, and it was still loose. So I replaced the belt, and along with that, I noticed the lower bolt on the alternator was stripped, so you couldn't tighten that. It was just kind of barely, you could just turn it with your hands, in fact, and that's not good. So I put a little longer bolt and put a lock washer, and flat washer and a lock washer in the end, tightened it down with that, and that works just fine with the new belt. Squealing is gone. Start cold mornings, turning on the, you turn on the lights or your heater, you don't have the squealing at a stoplight. That has gone away. The other thing, and again, these are topics I can bring up later, I did replace the PCV valve. A couple of you have talked about it in the discussions, and yeah, if you don't know what you haven't done it the first time, a little different, and I doubt if it had ever been replaced. It looked like a ear, I don't know, wax or some kind of a gray, nasty looking thing, and the tube there, comes off the air cleaner. The air cleaner had a pool of oil in the bottom, and right away I knew that was some crankcase, the breather problem, so I replaced it, and that took care of that. No more oils blowing up into the oil filter assembly in there, which had ruins your air filter as well, and it's not good. It burns oil. So I cleaned that up and took care of that. And then, of course, another topic was the tune-up. Again, we'll go in there about the settings on that later. And I did replace the fuel filter, which is on the left side here, right below the fuel fill thing in there, right behind that wheel. And that's a challenge in itself unless you can get it up on a rack. But again, that could be a topic for later, and something that people all should address. Anyways, a month owning this vehicle. I'm very happy with it. I commute 3 days a week, 60 miles round trip, and after doing a little bit of this work, I was able to get the economy up to 38 miles a gallon. Started about 34, so I'm up to 38 now. And I think a little bit more work will get it up there, but I'm happy with 38 and overall happy with the little car. And look forward to talking to you all later. Take care.